My entitled boss's son expected me to train him for a job he was stealing from me. When I refused, he smirked and said, "My dad already promised me your position." The next day, he showed up late to a board meeting only to see me sitting in the seat he thought was his. His face went white as the CEO said, "Actually, we promoted her instead." Hey Reddit, I want to share a story that unfolded over several months involving workplace betrayal, unexpected twists, and a satisfying outcome. It's about how I navigated a challenging situation at work when my boss's son tried to take over my position. I've been part of a mid-sized tech company in San Francisco for 6 years. Starting as a junior developer, I worked my way up to lead project manager. This role wasn't just a title, it represented years of dedication, late nights, and a deep commitment to our projects. I believed my efforts were recognized, especially by my boss, Mr. Anderson, who often praised my work and hinted at future advancements. A few months ago, Mr. Anderson's son, Brad, joined the company. Fresh out of an Ivy League school with a business degree, Brad walked in with an air of confidence that bordered on arrogance. Rumors quickly spread that he was being groomed for a significant role, possibly even my position. I tried to focus on my work, hoping that merit and experience would outweigh nepotism. One afternoon, Mr. Anderson called me into his office. Expecting a routine project update, I was blindsided when he informed me that Brad would be taking over as lead project manager. The justification was that Brad's fresh perspective would benefit the company's growth. I was stunned. Years of hard work seemed to evaporate in that moment. Later that day, Brad approached me with a smirk. He asked if I could train him for the role, essentially preparing him to take over my job. When I hesitated, he casually mentioned, "My dad already promised me your position." The audacity was infuriating. I realized I had a choice: accept this unjust situation or take action. Over the weekend, I reflected on my options. I knew the company's projects intimately and was aware of a critical board meeting scheduled for Monday. This meeting would set the direction for our next major venture, a project I had been leading. I decided to attend the meeting despite the circumstances to demonstrate my commitment and expertise. Monday morning arrived. I entered the boardroom and took my usual seat. Mr. Anderson looked surprised but didn't object. As the meeting began, Brad was conspicuously absent. He arrived late, looking unprepared and flustered. When the discussion turned to the upcoming project, Brad stumbled through his points, clearly out of his depth. Seizing the opportunity, I provided clear, concise insights, showcasing my deep understanding of the project. The board members took notice, their attention shifting from Brad to me. As the meeting concluded, the CEO spoke up. He acknowledged the need for strong leadership on the project and, to my astonishment, announced my promotion to Director of Project Management. The room fell silent. Brad's face turned pale, and Mr. Anderson looked visibly uncomfortable. I accepted the promotion, feeling a mix of vindication and relief. Brad's tenure at the company was short-lived. Without the safety net of favoritism, his lack of experience was evident, and he resigned within a month. Mr. Anderson's credibility suffered, leading to his eventual resignation. As for me, I continued to lead with integrity, earning the respect of my colleagues. This experience reinforced my belief in standing up for oneself and the value of merit over nepotism. Things didn't stay quiet for long. A week after Brad left, weird stuff started happening. At first, it was small. Emails I knew I sent were missing from threads. Calendar invites I never accepted showed up on my schedule, making me look late or absent from meetings. One day, I walked into a call with the CFO and 2 board members, only to hear one of them say, "Finally decided to join us?" I had no idea the meeting was even happening. At first, I blamed tech issues. But then someone forwarded me a message that had my name on it, except I never wrote it. It was a short email to a senior partner, full of vague, passive-aggressive language about delays and mistakes. My blood ran cold. Someone was impersonating me, trying to make me look bad. I brought it up to IT. They said my login history looked normal, but they'd investigate. A few days later, they pulled me into a private room and told me something that honestly floored me. The fake messages were sent from an old internal account that had admin-level access. That account used to belong to Brad. Apparently, when Brad resigned, he didn't fully leave. His credentials were never properly revoked, and he still had remote access to several admin tools. He was using that access to mess with my communication, calendar, and project data. I was furious, but I didn't show it. I thanked IT, asked them to keep it quiet, and requested they let me know if anything else popped up. Instead of confronting Brad directly, I started documenting everything. Every strange change, every suspicious email, every shift in project logs. I created a digital folder, updated daily. I kept a timeline, screenshots, and even voice memos of conversations I had with people who noticed things were off. But then things escalated. One morning, I walked into the office and my badge wouldn't work. Security had to buzz me in. When I got to my desk, my computer was gone. Completely gone. I asked around. No one knew anything. 20 minutes later, HR called me into their office. They told me they received a formal complaint about me sabotaging projects and misleading executives. My heart dropped. They were talking about Brad's fake emails, his tampered files, but they didn't know it wasn't me. I tried to explain. I even showed them some of my evidence. They were polite but non-committal. We're going to need to suspend access to your systems while we conduct an internal investigation, they said. I was stunned. All those years of work. Everything I'd built. I left the office feeling numb. They didn't fire me, but I was locked out. I couldn't prove anything yet. But I wasn't giving up. I called the IT manager that night. A good guy. We'd worked together on dozens of projects. I told him everything. He was shocked. He promised to dig deeper on his end, quietly. The next week was torture. I couldn't access anything. I was technically still employed, but completely sidelined. I had nothing to do but wait and keep digging on my own. I reached out to a lawyer, just to understand my rights. I didn't want to sue, yet, but I needed to be ready if this blew up in my face. Then, 4 days later, I got a call from the IT guy. He said, "You need to come in." Now, I arrived at the office around 7 p.m. It was mostly empty. He met me in the server room. On a screen, he showed me login timestamps from Brad's old account. IP addresses, timestamps, file access logs. Not only had Brad been tampering with my data, he'd been copying entire project folders to an external server. I felt sick. Brad wasn't just trying to ruin me, he was stealing company information. Client reports, proprietary code, financial models. It was industrial sabotage. We pulled the logs and backed up the evidence. I immediately called the CEO at home. I hated doing that, but this was huge. He picked up, groggy, but when I explained, he snapped to attention. "Meet me in the office at 8 a.m. sharp," he said. "Bring everything." I barely slept that night. The next morning, we met in a secure room with the CEO, legal, HR, IT, and security. I walked them through everything, showed them the folder I'd built. IT confirmed all of it. The CEO was silent for a long time. Then he looked at me and said, "You saved us." After that meeting with the CEO, things seemed like they'd finally start heading in the right direction. He thanked me, said I'd done the company a huge favor, and told me they'd be launching a formal investigation. I was relieved until I noticed something strange on my way out. As I passed by one of the private conference rooms, I saw someone sitting inside, Rachel, the director of HR. And sitting across from her, Brad. I froze. He wasn't supposed to be there. He had resigned. They had confirmed it. But he was there, in the building, in a closed-door meeting with someone who was now part of the investigation team. I didn't say anything right away. I went home and just thought. It didn't make sense. Unless Brad never actually left. Unless this whole resignation story was part of a larger cover-up. Maybe he stepped down from a visible role but had been working behind the scenes on something else. It clicked for me when I remembered a project we had shelved months ago, a product we had started designing internally but put on hold because of budget constraints. I checked my old drive and sure enough, there were emails where Brad had asked for access to those files, pretending it was for analysis. What if Brad had been stealing more than just current files? What if he was prepping to launch something of his own? The next few days were quiet again, but I couldn't shake that image of him in the building. So I went digging through LinkedIn, old emails, Slack messages, anything I could get my hands on. And that's when I found something I wasn't supposed to see. A private investor pitch deck. One of the senior engineers had sent it to a contact by accident, thinking it was going to a marketing firm. The contact forwarded it to me because my name was still listed in the metadata as the original author of the project proposal. The deck was for a new startup. But it wasn't just similar to our shelved product, it was our product. Same concept, same name, even the same diagrams. Except now, the co-founders listed were Brad and Rachel. My hands started shaking. Rachel, the director of HR, the one overseeing the investigation against me, was in on it. They were building a startup with stolen company IP. They had used their roles, his as a former insider, hers as a gatekeeper, to access everything they needed, quietly extract it, and then discredit me to get me out of the way. That's why I was being framed. I was a liability. I had been on the original team that created the product. My name was still on every version of the original files. If this startup went public and anyone traced it back to the source, I could expose them. I didn't sleep at all that night. The next morning, I called the CEO again. I didn't wait for a scheduled meeting. I showed up at his office and handed him the pitch deck. At first, he didn't understand. "It's just a proposal," he said. And then I showed him the metadata. The file paths. My name on the diagrams. The source code structure. Even the fake names they had given some of the features, copy-pasted straight from the shelved project files. He sat there, jaw tight, for a solid minute. "I need to make some calls," he said. "Go home. We'll be in touch. And thank you for not going public." I left, completely drained. I didn't know who else I could trust in that building. People I had worked with for years, some were probably involved. Some might have known and said nothing. Others were just as in the dark as I had been. I expected silence after that. Or maybe a delayed legal move. But what happened next was something I did not expect. That evening, while scrolling through news alerts, I saw a headline on a local tech blog: "Stealth startup with controversial backing raises $6 million seed round." And right there in the article, photos of Brad and Rachel standing in front of a generic office building, smiling, holding glasses of champagne. They had gone ahead with it. They launched the company. And now it was public. And the worst part? No mention of the company they stole it from. No mention of the people who built it. No mention of me. But now it was all in writing. It was online. And every piece of it connected directly back to the stolen files, the sabotaged projects, the tampered emails. They had exposed themselves, thinking they were untouchable. And I had all the proof in the world. The next day, I walked into the office like it was just another Tuesday. But my heart was pounding. I had emailed the CEO late the night before with everything I had: final evidence, screenshots, files, and a copy of the investor pitch from the blog article. I didn't expect a reply right away. What I did get was a calendar invite: emergency all-staff meeting, 10 a.m., main conference room. I didn't know what was coming, but I could guess. The room was packed when I arrived. People were whispering, looking around, trying to figure out what was happening. Then, Mr. Dalton, the CEO, walked in with Rachel right behind him. Brad was already there, standing off to the side, trying to look casual, like he hadn't just lit a match and tossed it into a gasoline-soaked building. Mr. Dalton didn't waste time. "I called this meeting because some very serious allegations have come to light concerning internal misconduct, intellectual property theft, and unauthorized business ventures," he said. People went dead silent. Rachel's face dropped. Brad's smirk started to flicker. He turned toward me for a second, and I held his gaze. This time, I didn't flinch. Then Dalton said, "These allegations involve individuals within this room, and as of this morning, we have launched legal proceedings. Evidence has been submitted that directly ties our shelved product, Nova Suite, to a newly launched company built on stolen data from this organization." Someone gasped. Rachel stepped forward, her voice trembling. That's an exaggeration. We didn't steal. We innovated on a concept that wasn't being used." That's when I stood up. I hadn't planned to speak, but the rage that had been simmering for months finally boiled over. "No," I said. "You copied every single piece of that project. You used my work, my designs, my notes. You thought because it was shelved, no one would notice. You sabotaged me, planted fake emails, faked meetings, made HR launch an investigation to push me out. Also, you could take what I built and make it yours." Rachel turned red. Brad scoffed, muttering something under his breath. I stared him down. "You hacked into the system, Brad," I said loudly. "You used your old credentials. You used mine. You even faked emails with my name on them. Did you really think no one would figure it out?" Then Dalton pulled out a printed sheet and read aloud part of a Slack conversation, one I'd never seen, between Brad and Rachel, laughing about how easy it was to push me out. Everyone was staring at them now. People I'd worked with for years, quiet, respectful engineers, junior devs, the finance manager, even the front desk assistant. They were all looking like they'd just watched a car crash happen in slow motion. Rachel snapped. "It wasn't like that. You think this company ever appreciated you? You were just their favorite until something better came along. We made something from nothing. You made something from my work," I snapped back. Brad, now cornered, blurted out, "You're acting like you were some kind of genius. It was a dead project. We just revived it. You're bitter because we beat you to it." And that was the moment. That sentence. That tone. The last straw for everyone in the room. Mr. Dalton didn't even look at them. He just turned to security. "Escort both of them out." Now. Rachel screamed something about suing. Brad muttered something about having powerful friends. But they were done. Security didn't say a word. They just opened the door, and the room watched them walk out. Nobody clapped. Nobody cheered. It wasn't one of those movie moments. It was heavy. Quiet. Cold. After they left, a few people came up to me. Some apologized. One guy said he'd always suspected something was off but didn't know how to help. The IT guy gave me a long, silent nod. And the CEO, well, he asked if I wanted to speak privately. In his office, he told me legal would be handling the lawsuit against Brad and Rachel's startup. He asked if I'd be willing to testify or provide further records. I said yes. Then he offered me a real promotion, head of innovation and R&D. I didn't say yes right away. The truth is, I didn't feel victorious. Not really. I felt tired, drained. Even though they were gone, I kept thinking about the months I'd spent questioning my sanity, defending myself, wondering if maybe I was the problem. That kind of betrayal doesn't go away easily. But I accepted the role eventually. Because despite everything, I still believed in the work. I believed in the people who stayed. And maybe, just maybe, I wanted to rebuild something honest. Rachel and Brad's startup went dark within a month. Investors pulled out. Lawsuits stacked up. They were finished before they even got started. As for me, I'm still here. Still leading. Still building. But I'm different now. I trust slower. I document everything. And every time I see a new intern with that hungry look in their eyes, I remember how close I came to losing everything and how, somehow, the truth cut through all the lies. People ask me if I've forgiven them. I haven't. But I've moved on. Sometimes, the best revenge isn't justice, it's surviving what they tried to destroy and walking right past the wreckage with your head up.